Before we begin, don't forget to leave a like if you enjoy the video. Let's get started. At the beginning of this story, we see Goku and Vegeta training with each other. Whis is standing right there, watching all of them. Then Goku says, "Vegeta, why don't we make this fight even more interesting? What do you say?" Then Vegeta says, "What nonsense are you talking, Kakarot? I didn't understand any of this." Then Goku says, "You'll understand soon." Saying this, we see Goku suddenly transform into his Ultra Instinct form. And seeing it, Whis is shocked and says, "What's this, Goku? Have you mastered this god form? This is praiseworthy." Then Goku says, "No, Whis, it's nothing like that. I'm just learning to control this power." Then Vegeta says, "No matter what heights of power you reach, I am a prince, and I will always remain one. Understood?" Then Goku says, "Oh, that I know very well, Vegeta. But do you have enough power to face this form of mine?" Then Vegeta says, "There's no doubt that this form of yours is quite powerful, but I also have something for you that you'll like." Saying this, we see Vegeta power up, and suddenly he comes into a new form of his. Seeing it, Goku says, "What on earth is this? Your hair is quite strange." Then Whis, looking at Vegeta, says, "Vegeta, this is the destruction form. When did you do this?" We see that Vegeta's hair had turned pink, and he stood before all of them in a new form. Then his power is suddenly felt by Beerus, and he says, "What on earth is this? Besides me, is there someone else here who has this power?" Then two more gods come before Beerus and say, "You're right, this is indeed someone else, but who?" Then Beerus says, "Whoever it is, right now I'm resting, so go and see who it is, and if there's any intruder, finish them off." Then those two gods leave from there. Then on the other side, Vegeta, with his power, is saying to Goku, "What happened, Kakarot? Are you surprised seeing this power of mine?" Then Goku says, "Yes, I'm truly surprised, Vegeta. When did you do this?" Then Vegeta says, "When you obtained Ultra Instinct in that tournament of power, and I had become weak before that Jiren and was eliminated, that's when I decided that if we all survive and make it out of here alive, I would never let this happen again, and such a situation would never arise as long as I'm around. Understand, Kakarot?" Then Goku says, "Wow, what a thing. You had thought through so much. Truly, I'm amazed. But truly, is this power enough?" Then Vegeta says, "You'll understand that soon." Saying this, we see Vegeta suddenly launch his attack on Goku. Goku blocks Vegeta's attack and says, "Not so easily, Vegeta." Saying this, Goku also throws a punch at Vegeta. But then Vegeta also catches Goku's punch and says, "No, Kakarot, not so easily." Goku is quite surprised seeing this. And at that moment, Vegeta lands a powerful kick on Goku's face, which Goku cannot block, and he falls far away. Then seeing this, Whis says, "This is truly something different. Even though Vegeta is in the destruction form, this isn't like the one that the other gods of destruction have. Is there something I'm not able to understand?" Then the scene shifts from there, and we see that in an unknown place there is a person who is watching Vegeta through a portal. And he says, "So it seems this is the person I had been waiting for. Now what I have wanted for thousands of years will finally happen. Tronus, look, what you wanted is finally about to happen. This is what we had been waiting for. I will take your revenge very soon with its help, and I want to see its first sight with my own eyes. I'm coming, very soon." On the other side, we see that Vegeta is fighting Goku in his destruction form, and he is overpowering Goku. But then we see that suddenly Goku stands up, and he increases his power even more, and he suddenly transforms into his Master Ultra Instinct form, and he catches Vegeta's kick and says to him, "Enough of all this play, now let's start the real fight." Saying this, Goku lands a powerful punch on Vegeta's stomach. Blood comes out of Vegeta's mouth. Then seeing this, Whis says, "What a thing. Goku has now come into Master Ultra Instinct. Now this fight will perhaps become even more enjoyable." Then Goku says, "Why? Did you enjoy that now, Vegeta?" Then Vegeta laughs and says, "Kakarot, is this all you had, or is there something more?" Then seeing this reaction of Vegeta, Goku is a little startled and says, "What on earth is this? I've never seen anything like this. This punch of mine truly had no effect on him." Then Whis says, "It seems the situation is not at all what it appears to be." Then at that moment, Vegeta screams quite loudly and hits Goku very hard, and suddenly begins landing many punches and kicks on him. On the other side, we see those two gods who are heading toward Vegeta, and the two of them again feel this power of Vegeta. Then one of them says, "This is even greater. We'll have to hurry. After all, who is this?" On the other side, Goku and Vegeta are fighting each other. Vegeta now starts overpowering Goku again and says, "What happened, Kakarot? Show me your god power. I won't always stay behind you, understand? I am a prince, understand, and you're just an ordinary Saiyan." And after saying this, Vegeta blasts one of his ki blasts, which goes straight at Goku, and Goku falls far away. Then Whis says, "What a thing, Vegeta. Have you truly defeated Goku in his Master Ultra Instinct?" Then Vegeta says, "Would you like to test this power of mine, Whis?" Then Whis says, "Is this really something you want to do?" Then Vegeta says, "Why not? I'm completely ready." But then at that moment Goku stands up and says, "No, Vegeta, not so fast. This fight isn't over yet." Then Vegeta says, "You still have life left in you? Alright, no matter, I'll finish that too." Then we see Vegeta create a dark Hakai energy, and seeing it, Whis is very shocked and says, "What? This is impossible. How can this be? This power with him?" Then Whis screams, "Vegeta, stop, you'll finish him off." Then Vegeta says, "Yes, I know, and that's what I want too. If he can't block my attack, then he's weak, and the weak have no right to live. So now handle this, Kakarot." After saying this, we see Vegeta release his dark Hakai energy upon Goku, but Goku moves forward and increases his power even more, and launches a special attack of his on the Hakai energy, due to which there is a big explosion. And as soon as the dust clears, we see Goku and Vegeta standing before each other, ready for the fight once again. But then, at that very moment, we see that those two gods suddenly arrive there and say, "Stop." Then Vegeta looks toward the two of them and says, "Now, who are you two, and why have you come here?" Then one of the gods says, "Hanami, and this is Tsunagi. Lord Beerus has sent us here, understand?" Then Vegeta says, "Yes, that I understood. But why have you come here? Don't interfere in our fight, understand? Leave this place." Then the two of them say, "You don't understand. Your staying alive isn't right, understand? So we have come here to kill you." Then Vegeta says, "Oh, truly you two don't know what you're saying, and to whom you're saying it." Then Hanami says, "What you have can become even more dangerous going forward, which is why we both will finish you off." Then hearing this, Goku is shocked and says, "What on earth are you saying? Lord Beerus sent you here to kill Vegeta? No, how can that be?" Then Tsunagi says, "We don't know all that. We only know this much, that we will do what Lord Beerus has told us." Then Goku says, "No, this won't happen. I won't let this happen." Then Vegeta says, "No, Kakarot, they've come to fight me, not you, so I'll handle them." Then Goku says, "But Vegeta." Then Vegeta angrily says, "I said, didn't I? I'll handle this. And yes, don't come in my way. I'll handle these two, and I won't say this to you again and again." Then Hanami says, "I'm sorry that we have to do this, but we can't do anything. This is Lord Beerus' order. Tsunagi, go, finish him off." Then we see Tsunagi launch his attack on Vegeta, but Vegeta dodges his attack very easily and says, "Is this all? You can't do anything more than this?" Saying this, Vegeta releases his dark Hakai energy upon him. Tsunagi can't comprehend it and says, "No, what on earth is this?" Then Vegeta says, "Your death." And then we see Tsunagi get completely erased in an instant. Seeing this, Whis is very shocked and says, "No, Vegeta, what have you done?" Then Goku says, "No, he truly killed a god." Then Vegeta says, "So you'd come to kill me? It's not so easy to finish off this prince." Then seeing this, Hanami becomes very angry and releases the god key from within himself and says, "You'll regret this very much, Saiyan." Hanami's energy is felt by Beerus too, and he says, "What? This is perhaps Hanami, but against whom does he need to use his god key energy? What is this? After all, perhaps I should go. No, let me rest a little longer. I hope those two will handle it." Then on the other side, Hanami says, "Your death will be very painful, Saiyan." Then Vegeta too says, "I have something similar to say about you. I hope you'll at least be capable of giving me a bit of a challenge. So shall we begin, Hanami?" Hanami is in a great rage, and he pounces on Vegeta. Then Goku comes in between and stops that god, but then he hits Goku a little. But Goku catches his punch and says, "Whoever you are, but perhaps you've had some misunderstanding. Understand? Leave this place. Then at that moment Vegeta hits Goku very hard, which Goku cannot block, and he falls far away. And Vegeta says, "Don't come in the middle of my fight, understand? Stay away from me, I'll handle him, and I'm telling you this for the last time, Kakarot." Then Goku stands up and says, "Are you crazy, Vegeta? I was helping you." Then Vegeta says, "Who told you that I need your help?" Then Whis says, "Hanami, you're unaware of this power, so fighting it is foolishness. Leave this place." Then Hanami says, "Whis, you want me to spare him after he killed Tsunagi right before my eyes? Never." Then Vegeta says, "As if I'm going to spare you either." Then we see Hanami begin launching his attacks on Vegeta. But Vegeta, laughing, keeps blocking all his attacks and says, "All these efforts are futile before me, understand?" Then Hanami says, "Is that what you think, foolish Saiyan?" Saying this, we see Hanami suddenly boost his power and land a powerful punch right on Vegeta's face. Vegeta doesn't see it coming, and he falls far away. And then Hanami, with the help of his energy, creates a Hakai ball, which is quite large, and without any delay, he immediately releases it upon Vegeta, and we see that there is a big explosion, and as soon as the smoke clears, we see that Vegeta isn't there. Then Hanami begins laughing very loudly and says, "Now you've gotten a taste of real power, you foolish, clueless Saiyan. There's a great difference between a Saiyan and a god, and you cannot face a god, understand?" Then we see Goku, seeing this, say, "No, how can this be?" Then Hanami looks toward Goku and says, "What happened? I know you're very saddened that I killed your friend." But then Goku says, "I wasn't saying that. Look behind you." Then we see that as soon as he turns around, Vegeta is standing right before his eyes. Seeing him, Hanami becomes frightened and says, "What? No." But then, at that moment, Vegeta grabs his neck and says, "Why? What happened? Are you startled? You showed your Hakai. Now it's my turn." Then Goku screams, "No, Vegeta, stop." But we see that Vegeta does his Hakai right before his face, and Hanami completely turns to dust right there. Then Vegeta says, "You must have understood now how heavy it can be to tangle with a Prince of Science. So where was I, Whis? Would you like to test it?" Then Whis says, "Vegeta, have you gone crazy? You have no idea that you've killed two gods. You'll have to face the consequences of this." Then Vegeta says, "Consequences? And perhaps you're forgetting, Whis, that those two had come to kill me. Understand? And the two of them were sent by your beloved Lord Beerus. And yes, if he too comes to kill me, then the next turn will be his." Goku says, "Vegeta, you didn't do right. Perhaps you shouldn't have killed these two. Now it's possible that the gods will turn against us." Then Vegeta angrily says to Goku, "If they do, then let them. It makes no difference to me. Whoever comes to kill me, I'll do the same to them." Then Whis says, "Alright then, Vegeta, you should stay ready for the consequences, because it's possible that perhaps all of them now know about this." Then Vegeta says, "I'm ready for everyone. And yes, if you two are against me, then I'm ready to fight you as well." Then Whis says, "I don't want to fight you, nor am I going to do anything like that, understand?" Then Vegeta comes into his normal form and says, "It seems there's no point in me staying here. I'm leaving." But then someone says to him, "Not so fast. Where are you going, Vegeta?" Then Vegeta suddenly stops and says, "What, Beerus?" Then we see Beerus standing right there, and seeing him, Goku is quite shocked and says, "Lord Beerus, you, here?" Then Beerus says, "Yes, Tsunagi and Hanami had come here. Where did the two of them go? Do you know?" Suddenly, their power vanished. "Do you know anything?" Then Goku says, "No, Lord Beerus, we." Then Vegeta says, "You sent the two of them to kill me." "I killed both of them." Hearing this, Beerus is very shocked and says, "What? No, this is impossible. This can't be. But I had sent them after that energy, so then why did you kill them?" Then Vegeta says, "I don't know what you're talking about. The two of them were talking about killing me, so it's simple, I finished them off." Then Beerus says, "But wait a moment. Could it be that you have that?" Then Vegeta says, "Get out of my way." Then Beerus angrily says, "You're not going anywhere." Saying this, Beerus throws a punch at Vegeta, which Vegeta cannot block, and he falls far away. Then Vegeta stands up and says, "So you want this too?" Saying this, Vegeta increases his power greatly and comes into his dark form once again. And seeing it, Beerus is quite surprised. "No, You have that power, but how can this be? You, then Vegeta says. Why? What happened? Are you feeling afraid? Then Beerus says, Afraid? And me afraid? Now you'll feel fear, Vegeta. Saying this, Beerus screams and increases his power. Seeing that power of Beerus, Goku too is quite shocked and says, What? What on earth is this? Then Whis says, Goku, this is only the beginning of Lord Beerus's real power. Then Goku says, No, this can't be true. I can't believe he's this powerful. Then Whis says, Yes, a god of destruction never displays his real power. But it's impossible to stop this rage of Lord Beerus now. He will take Vegeta's life now. Then Goku says, No, I won't let this happen. Then Goku too immediately stands before Beerus and says, Stop, Lord Beerus. Vegeta didn't do all this knowingly. Then Beerus lands a powerful punch on Goku's stomach. Goku falls down unconscious from Beerus's punch and he starts heading straight toward Vegeta. Then Vegeta says, It seems you're getting angry, Beerus. Then Beerus says, Vegeta, you don't know what the consequence of this will be, but now you'll find out. Vegeta moves forward and hits Beerus quite hard, but Beerus catches Vegeta's punch and says, All this is useless before me. Vegeta immediately throws his second punch at him, but Beerus catches that too and says, You have so much pride in yourself, don't you? It won't remain now. Beerus immediately grabs Vegeta's head and slams him onto the ground and lands a powerful kick on him. Vegeta falls far away. Beerus slowly moves forward, but then Vegeta blasts his ki, but that too is of no use. And Beerus blocks that attack of Vegeta's in a single stroke, and immediately he reaches before him and grabs his neck and says, This is perhaps something else. This can't be it. Not this weak at all. Then Whis says, No, Lord Beerus. He is exactly what you think, and he came here after sensing it. Then Beerus says, No, Whis, you must have had some misunderstanding, but you've killed Tsunagi and Hanami, so I will finish you off. After saying this, Beerus hits Vegeta quite hard, and Vegeta can't block it, and he falls down to the ground, wounded. Then Beerus says, Now die, Saiyan. Saying this, Beerus releases his Hakai energy upon Vegeta, and a big explosion happens there. And as soon as the explosion clears, we see that Vegeta isn't there. Then Beerus says, Alright, this is finished. Then Whis says, Lord Beerus, what have you done? Then Beerus says, Can't you see that I've killed him? Then Whis says, That's not what I meant. Look behind you. Then Vegeta says from behind, Beerus, did you think I died? Vegeta stands behind Beerus in his dark form and suddenly lands a very powerful punch on his face, which Beerus neither sees coming nor can block, and he falls far away. And on the other side, we see that God who had reached that place, and he is watching this fight while hidden. Whis senses his presence, but then that God conceals his power. Then Whis says, I felt that perhaps someone is here. Is it really so? Then that God says, It's been quite a long time since I've seen you angels. I remember how my angel was taken from me 500 years ago, and from my brother too. I haven't forgotten anything, nothing of what all of you have done. Now all of you will see the consequence of this. Just a little more time, and the right moment has now arrived. Then we see that God take out a Potara from his hand, which is quite different and was completely dark. Then that God says, The weapon that my brother made, the great Tronus, this weapon will now slowly wreak havoc. Elder brother, I, the god Mataro, your younger brother, am going to carry out your work. Our revenge on all the destruction, on everyone, just a few more moments. Then we see that on the other side, Vegeta says, Beerus, what happened? Are you celebrating your victory so soon? You haven't won yet, nor have you killed me. Are you dreaming without sleeping? Then Beerus gets up and laughs and says, Vegeta, I didn't think you'd be able to do this too, but it's good. I haven't seen anything like this in quite a long time. Seeing you reminded me of an old friend whom I had fought, but unfortunately, I couldn't defeat him. I wish he were here now, but no matter, you won't survive. Saying this, Beerus increases his power, and a pink aura begins emanating from within him. Then Whis says, No, this is becoming even more dangerous. Then Vegeta says, Good, put in your full power, understand, Beerus, otherwise you too will be killed like those two. Then Beerus says, No Vegeta, don't worry, I won't give you that chance. Saying this, we see Vegeta immediately launch his attack toward Beerus. Beerus is standing quite calmly with his eyes closed, and as soon as Vegeta comes before him, Beerus opens his eyes and disappears from before Vegeta. And immediately, he appears before Vegeta again and presses Vegeta's head into the ground with his foot. Vegeta can't understand anything. He tries to get up, but Beerus lands a powerful punch on his face. Vegeta can't do anything, and Beerus grabs Vegeta's hair and going quite close to his face, says, "An arrogant and clueless Saiyan like you will kill me? You can kill my companions, but not me. You're weak, understand, very weak." Beerus lands a powerful slap on Vegeta. Vegeta falls quite far away and gets a little wounded. Then Beerus says, "What happened? Where did that prince attitude of yours go now? Did it end so quickly?" Then at that moment, Vegeta angrily and very swiftly punches Beerus again, but Beerus catches it again and says, "You're making a futile effort, Saiyan. I'm not like those two, understand? I am Beerus, understand? Just as I wiped out your species along with the planet, now it's your turn." Hearing this, Vegeta is quite shocked and says, "What? You did this? I won't spare you." Then Beerus says, "Right now your own life is in danger. Worry about yourself, Beerus." Saying this, he badly breaks Vegeta's right hand. Vegeta screams very loudly. Then Whis says, "Lord Beerus, stop. What are you doing? Do you truly want to kill him?" Then Beerus says, "Stop your nonsense. Understand, Whis. If I had finished all of them off at once, this situation wouldn't have arisen at all. When I had all the Saiyans killed, how did you survive? You must have surely fled, leaving the planet. But where will you flee now?" Then Vegeta says, "I don't flee from the likes of you, understand? I never flee from a fight." Then Beerus says, "This very arrogance will drown you today. Get ready to die." Hakai. Beerus immediately creates his Hakai energy and releases it toward Vegeta. But then Goku comes in between and finishes off Beerus's Hakai in a single stroke. Then Whis says, "Goku, but how did he finish off Lord Beerus's Hakai? Has he attained mastery in this Master Ultra Instinct? No, that's not possible this quickly." Then Beerus says, "Goku, you're coming in between me and him for nothing. Move aside. I have to kill him, understand? Because I have a very special reason to kill him." Then Goku says, "No, Lord Beerus, I don't accept that reason of yours. Those two came to kill Vegeta, so Vegeta did what he was supposed to do, understand? Stop all this." Then Beerus says, "Alright then, now you two will die along with him." Then Goku says, "Alright then, as you say. I had expected this very thing from you too." Beerus immediately moves forward to launch his attack toward Goku. Goku releases the energy of his Master Ultra Instinct even more, and light spreads all around. Then Goku does one of his ki blasts on Beerus, due to which Beerus falls quite far away. But he immediately stands up and says, "What a thing, you're praiseworthy. So you mastered it, did you? But even with this you can't do anything to me." Then at that moment Vegeta too stands up and says, "Kakarot, this is my fight. Move aside, understand?" Then Goku says, "Vegeta, can't you see you're wounded? You can't fight Lord Beerus, understand? Your hand is badly broken. Hey Whis, do you have any senzu beans?" Then Whis says, "No Goku, I don't have any." Then Goku says, "Wait a moment, you can heal Vegeta, can't you?" So then Whis says, "I can." Goku, "But I can't do this without Lord Beerus's permission." Then Beerus says, "And I'm going to finish off both of you today, understand?" From within Beerus, even more energy now begins coming out, dark and purple energy. Then Goku says, "What on earth is this now?" Then Beerus says, "Feeling afraid? This is your death." Then Vegeta says, "This has only just begun, and you've already made this decision too." Then Goku too says, "Lord Beerus, stop all this. You're doing wrong." Then Beerus says, "You'll tell me what's wrong? I should have killed all the Saiyans in time, you too. All of you are a danger to the entire universe, understand?" After saying this, we see Beerus launch his attack on the two of them. Goku and Vegeta move forward and block Beerus's attack, but it's of no use. Beerus hits the two of them very hard, due to which both of them fall quite far away. Goku gets up again and does his ki blast on Beerus, but that too is of no use. Beerus immediately catches his hand and says, "All these efforts are useless before a god of destruction, understand? Where have you seen my real power? But now you'll see it." Saying this, Beerus lands a powerful hit on Goku's stomach and does his powerful kick on his face, due to which Goku falls very hard onto the ground. After this, Beerus begins crushing Goku with his feet. Goku screams, but then Beerus says, "Scream and scream more. It's hurting, isn't it? It should." Then suddenly Vegeta too launches his attack on Goku, but Beerus catches Vegeta's hand too, grabs his head and slams it onto the ground and says, "This is the worth of you two Saiyans. Understand." Then we see that Beerus stands before both Goku and Vegeta, and that dark and purple energy is coming out from within him. Then Beerus says, "What happened? Can't you two do anything now? I had thought the two of you would give me a bit of a challenge, but both of you turned out to be very weak. Understand." Then Goku stands up and says, "No, Lord Beerus, this isn't over yet." Then Vegeta too stands up and says, "Yes, Beerus, we haven't accepted defeat yet." Then Beerus laughs and says, "Oh, alright then, show me how much life the two of you have left." Saying this, both Goku and Vegeta launch their attack toward Beerus together. Then Beerus blocks both their attacks very easily and says, "Is this all?" Then Beerus hits both of them together very hard, due to which both of them fall quite far away. Then Goku gets up again and, in his Master Ultra Instinct, does his Ki Blast on Beerus. But Beerus blocks his blast with just one hand and says, "Goku, you have mastered this, but you don't have enough power to defeat me, understand?" Saying this, Beerus immediately reaches before Goku and lands a powerful punch on his stomach. Blood comes out of Goku's mouth and he falls down. Then Vegeta angrily launches his attack on Beerus, but Beerus grabs Vegeta's broken hand and squeezes it even harder. Vegeta screams very loudly. Then Beerus says, "What happened, Vegeta? Is it hurting? This is only the beginning, understand?" Then Beerus hits Vegeta hard too, and Vegeta falls near Goku. Then Beerus slowly moves toward the two of them and says, "Just look at your condition. What do the two of you Saiyans think of yourselves? The two of you will kill me? You're not even equal to insects before me, understand?" Then Vegeta says, "Shut up, Beerus. I haven't died yet." Then Beerus says, "Oh, alright then. Get up and show me." Then Vegeta tries to get up, but his broken hand isn't letting him get up. Then Beerus laughs and says, "Look at this arrogant prince. He can't even stand up, and he had set out to kill me." Then Beerus grabs Vegeta's hair and lifts him up and says, "Where did that prince arrogance of yours go, Vegeta? Now show me." Then Vegeta says, "I am a prince, and I will always remain one, understand?" Then Beerus says, "Prince, and you?" Saying this, Beerus lands one more powerful punch on Vegeta's face and slams him onto the ground. Then Goku stands up and says, "Stop it, Lord Beerus. That's enough now." Then Beerus looks toward Goku and says, "Oh, so now it's your turn, Goku." Saying this, Beerus reaches before Goku and begins landing many punches on his face. Goku can't do anything. Then Beerus slams Goku onto the ground too and says, "Look, understand the two of you your real worth. Now the two of you Saiyans were dreaming of defeating me." Saying this, Beerus raises his hand toward the two of them and creates a big Hakai energy and says, "Now I'll finish off the game of the two of you, forever and ever." Then both Goku and Vegeta are lying down below, and Beerus is just about to release his Hakai energy upon the two of them. Then suddenly Whis comes forward and says, "Lord Beerus, stop." Then Beerus stops and says, "What happened, Whis? Why are you coming in between?" Then Whis says, "Lord Beerus, think for a moment. If you kill these two now, you'll never be able to find out where Vegeta got this dark Hakai power from. And those two gods had also come to kill them. This means there's someone else as well who is behind all this." Then Beerus pauses a little and thinks and says, You're right, Whis. If I kill them now, I'll never be able to find out all this." Then Beerus finishes off his Hakai energy and says, "Alright, I'll give the two of you one more chance. But remember, if the two of you make any mistake again, then I'll finish off both of you. Understand?" Then Goku slowly gets up and says, "Thank you, Lord Beerus." Then Vegeta too tries to get up, but his broken hand is troubling him a lot. Then Goku goes near Vegeta and says, "Vegeta, listen, I have an idea." Then Vegeta says, "What idea, Kakarot?" Then Goku says, "Let's do fusion, the two of us. Once we do fusion, the power of the two of us will increase so much that we'll be able to face Beerus. Understand?" Then Vegeta angrily looks toward Goku and says, "Are you blind, Kakarot? How will I do that pathetic fusion dance? That Beerus has broken my left hand, you fool. I can't do this fusion." Then as soon as Vegeta refuses the fusion, Goku thinks for a little while and says to Whis, "Hey Whis, do you have a Potara?" Then Whis says, "Yes, I have a Potara. Do you need it?" Then Goku says, "Vegeta's hand is broken. We can't do fusion, so we have only that one way." Then Whis says, "Alright Goku, I'll give the two of you a Potara." Then on the other side, we see that Mataro is watching all of them from afar, and he says to himself, "This is that moment. I won't make any mistake." Tronus, the time has come to bring your power to life. Now this entire universe will see the most powerful weapon created by the two of us brothers, and the final time of the gods is coming very soon. Then over there, Whis takes a Potara out from his pocket, but he has two Potaras. Then Whis says to himself, "Oh, for now let me give him the wrong Potara." Then we see that besides the normal Potara, Whis also has a celestial Potara. Then Whis keeps that celestial Potara with himself and throws the other Potara toward the two of them. But then, at that very moment, Mataro throws his dark Potara toward Goku and Vegeta and finishes off Whis' Potara in midair. And Goku and Vegeta catch that dark Potara of Mataro's. Then Whis' eyes fall upon that dark Potara and he shouts and says, "Goku, Vegeta, don't wear that Potara." But it was too late. Goku and Vegeta had worn that dark Potara of Mataro's. And then a very intense dark energy blasts there. And as soon as that blast clears, we see that a new Saiyan is standing there, whose name is Zitoku. Then Whis is shocked seeing him and says, "This can't be. This is that same power, 200 years old." Then Beerus says, "This is something new. This will be fun." Then Zitoku too says, "Truly, this will be a lot of fun." Then we see that Beerus moves towards Zitoku and says, "So you're that new power. Let's see how much strength you have." Saying this, Beerus launches his attack towards Zitoku, but Zitoku dodges Beerus' attack very easily. Then Beerus is a little shocked and says, "What? This is only the beginning." Saying this, Beerus begins landing many punches and kicks on Zitoku, but Zitoku keeps dodging all of them very easily, and Beerus isn't able to land even a single attack on him. Then Whis, seeing this, says, "Lord Beerus, stop. This isn't what you think. This is very dangerous." But Beerus doesn't listen to Whis and says, "Stay quiet. Whis, I'll finish him off right now." Saying this, Beerus creates a big Hakai energy and releases it upon Zitoku. But Zitoku catches that Hakai energy with just one hand and finishes it off in midair. Seeing this, Beerus is even more shocked and says, "This is impossible. He finished off my Hakai." Then over there, Mataro is watching all this from afar, and he, very happy, says, "Yes, this is what I wanted. Now this god of destruction too won't survive. Tronus, your power will finish off everything." Then Beerus angrily says, "I am a god of destruction. Understand, and I'll finish you off right now." Saying this, Beerus increases his power greatly, and now even more dark and purple energy begins coming out from within him, and he comes into his final form. Then Whis says, Lord Beerus is putting in his full power. But then Beerus moves towards Zitoku with his full force and launches his attack on him. But then Zitoku blocks Beerus' attack with just one hand and says, "Is this all?" Saying this, Zitoku lands a powerful punch on Beerus' stomach, due to which blood comes out of Beerus' mouth and he falls down. Then Beerus tries to get up, but Zitoku reaches near him and grabs one of his hands and breaks it badly. Beerus screams very loudly. Then Zitoku laughs and says, "What happened? Is it hurting? This is only the beginning." Then Zitoku grabs Beerus' other hand too and breaks it, and then breaks his leg too badly. Beerus can't do anything, and lying on the ground, he screams very loudly. Then Whis, seeing this, says, "No, this is enough." Then Whis comes in between and tries to stop Zitoku, but Zitoku looks toward Whis and says, "Do you want to die too?" Saying this, Zitoku launches his attack on Whis and lands many punches and kicks on him too. Whis can't do anything, and he too falls onto the ground. Then Zitoku turns toward Beerus again and grabs his neck and says, "Now I'll finish you off, god of destruction." Then Beerus says, "No, this is impossible. I am a god. I can't die like this." Then Zitoku laughs and says, "Now you're just a corpse." Saying this, Zitoku breaks Beerus' neck badly and then cuts his body into many pieces and completely cuts apart every part of Beerus. Then we see that many pieces of Beerus's body are lying on the ground, and seeing them, Zitoku begins laughing loudly. Then we see that Zitoku's laughter suddenly stops, and Whis is standing before him. Then Whis says, "Zitoku, you don't know what you're doing. You've just killed a god of destruction. The consequence of this will be very bad. You don't even know what power you're using. This power isn't yours. It will finish you off, understand?" Then Zitoku stays quiet for a little while and keeps listening to Whis' words. But suddenly he grabs Whis' neck and says, "Enough of your nonsense." Saying this, Zitoku begins killing Whis too, and Whis can't save himself because Beerus is dead. Then at that very moment, we see that a god comes there and says, "Stop, let him go." Then Zitoku looks toward that god and throws Whis aside and says, "Oh, so one more has come to die." Saying this, Zitoku reaches before that god. Then that god fights Zitoku and launches many of his attacks on him. But Zitoku blocks all of them very easily, and that god too can't hold up before Zitoku. Then Whis says, "Stop, don't do all this. He'll kill you. You won't be able to defeat him." But Zitoku doesn't listen to anyone, and he gouges out both of that god's eyes. That god screams very loudly. Then Zitoku crushes his head with his foot and throws his body toward Whis and says, Here's your friend. Now tell me, is anyone else coming, or shall I kill you?" Then Whis says, "Zitoku, you'll regret this. You don't know the consequence of what you've done. This power will finish you off from within. The more you use it, the more it will make you weak, and one day it will take your very life, understand?" Then Zitoku laughs and moves forward again. But then suddenly, a very intense pain begins in Zitoku's head, and he grabs his head. Then, seizing the opportunity, Whis escapes from there. And then, Zitoku falls onto the ground and begins screaming very loudly from the pain. Then we see that Zitoku is screaming very loudly from the pain. And then Mataro appears before him and says, "Your power is amazing. I'm proud of this Potara made by my elder brother. What you've done is truly praiseworthy." Then Zitoku's eyes suddenly turn blue, and he slowly stands up. And seeing Mataro, he is very shocked, and he can't understand how this is a god of destruction whom he's never heard about. Then Zitoku asks Mataro, "Who are you, and where have you come from, and why have you come before me?" Then Mataro doesn't answer any of his questions, and just keeps smiling, looking at him. Then Zitoku begins getting angry again, and he is just about to attack Mataro. But then Mataro stops him and says, "Wait a moment, just look all around yourself." Then Zitoku turns his gaze and looks all around, and he sees that Beerus is lying on the ground in many pieces, and that God's head is crushed very badly. Then Zitoku angrily says, "You've done all this, Mataro." Then Mataro laughs and says, "Are you joking with me? I don't have that much power. I can fight a destroyer, but I can't give such a death. I don't have that much power. You've done all this." Then Zitoku can't understand anything at all, and he is very shocked and says, "You're a liar. Why would I do all this? Why would I kill them?" Then Mataro says, "I'm not lying, Zitoku. This was your power, that you wore this Potara. This power isn't that of any god of destruction. This power is far greater than even that, and you haven't understood what you are. Now you are the most dangerous power in this universe, understand?" Then Mataro further says, "You are my greatest weapon, Zitoku, and we'll meet again very soon, after all the gods are killed." Saying this, Mataro vanishes from there, and Zitoku keeps staring at him. Then we see that Zitoku is still in shock and can't believe that he did all this. And over there, where Mataro went after leaving from there, no one knows. Then over there, we see that Whis, in a wounded state, goes to Beerus's castle, and he says, "If this is what I think it is, then this isn't good for any god. I'll have to tell everyone about it." Then at that very moment, all the gods sense that Beerus is no more and that someone has killed him. Then all of those gods reach Beerus's planet. Then there all the gods see that Whis' condition is very bad, and they all ask Whis, "What on earth happened, and who did all this?" Then Whis tells all the gods about the power of the Dark Potara. Then Belmod says, "Have you gone crazy, Whis? Tronus died long ago. How is this possible?" Then Champa says, "But Mataro wasn't killed. There was never any trace of him found." Then Whis says, "I felt for a little while that someone was at that place, but then he vanished, and he killed Beerus very badly." Then all the gods ask Whis a lot about the Dark Potara and about Mataro. And after this, all of them leave from there to go to Zitoku. Then over there, we see that Zitoku is screaming like a madman, and then all those gods suddenly reach there and see that Beerus is lying cut into many pieces, and that guardian god too is crushed very badly. Then all the gods, seeing this, become very angry, and then Belmod says, "What you've done, and however many pieces you've made of Beerus, we all promise that we'll make 100 times more pieces of you." Just then we all see that all the gods take their positions around Zitoku, and Belmod says, "Now you'll get your punishment. You don't even know what you've done." At this, Zitoku slowly rises and says, "Oh, so all of you want to kill me together? Come on then, come at me all at once." At this, Belmod is the first to advance towards Zitoku and launches his attack on him. But Zitoku halts Belmod's strike with great ease and says, "Is that all?" The moment he says this, Zitoku drives a powerful punch into Belmod's stomach, which sends Belmod crashing far away. Seeing this, Champa says with anger, "I'll finish you off right now." The moment he says this, Champa advances towards Zitoku and begins landing several punches on him. But Zitoku dodges every one of them and says, "What's the matter? Is this all the strength you've got, the lot of you?" At this, Zitoku lands a powerful hit on Champa too, and Champa goes crashing far away as well. At this, all the gods begin attacking Zitoku together, and Zitoku keeps fighting them all. Just then, we all see Zitoku grab one god and hurl him toward another, and then he punches two gods at once. All the gods are attacking Zitoku together, but Zitoku is facing them all on his own. Then Belmod rises again and says, "How is he fighting so many gods all alone? This is impossible." At this, Champa says, "Whoever he is, there's a great deal of strength in him. We'll have to stop him together." At this, all the gods attack Zitoku together once more, and this time they throw in their full strength. Just then, two gods seize both of Zitoku's arms, and one god drives a powerful punch into his stomach. Blood comes out of Zitoku's mouth, and then Belmod says, "Yes, this is the moment, don't let him go." The moment he says this, all the gods together begin raining down a furious barrage of attacks on Zitoku. At this, Zitoku tries to free himself and attempts to build up his strength, but then his body suddenly stops working and a tremendous pain begins again in his head. And then Zitoku says, "No, not now, why isn't my body working?" At this, Belmod, seeing this, says, "It seems his strength is running out now. This is the right moment." At this, one god lands a powerful punch on Zitoku's face, and another god lands a kick on his stomach. Zitoku can't do anything because his body is no longer supporting him, and then Champa says, "Now don't spare him, finish him off completely." The moment he says this, all the gods together begin beating Zitoku in a very brutal manner. At this, we all see one god slam Zitoku to the ground, and another god lands several punches on him. Zitoku screams out loudly and says, "No, I can't lose like this. Where has my strength gone?" At this, Zitoku tries to rise again, but Belmod reaches him and, grabbing him by the hair, lifts him up and says, "Where has that strength of yours gone? Now you can't do a thing." The moment he says this, Belmod lands another powerful punch on Zitoku's face. At this, even more blood comes out of Zitoku's mouth, and he grows very weak. And then Champa says, "Now, don't waste the moment, let's all erase him together." At this, all the gods take their positions around Zitoku and raise their hands, beginning to form their erasure energy. And then Zitoku, seeing this, says, "No, I can't die. My strength." But his body isn't working at all. Just then we all see that after a little while, Zitoku slowly comes to, and he tries to open his eyes, but his entire body is aching. At this, Zitoku slowly opens his eyes, and everything around him appears blurry. At this, he clutches his head and says, "What happened to me? Why does my whole body ache?" At this, Zitoku slowly tries to rise, and he looks all around himself and says to himself, "Where have I ended up? I've never seen this place before. Everything here is different, and what am I doing here? I can't remember a thing." At this, Zitoku tries to strain his mind, but he can't recall anything at all. At this, Zitoku says to himself again, "The last thing I remember is that all the gods were beating me, and after that, I can't remember anything. So how did I get here, and where is this place?" At this, Zitoku tries to stand up, but his body is still quite weak, and he staggers a little once more. At that very moment, Zitoku hears a voice, and that voice says to him, "All the gods brought you here, and left you right here, because what you've done I'll be the one to give you your punishment for it now. Understand? At this, hearing this, Zitoku is a little startled, and he looks here and there, but he can't see anyone. At this, Zitoku says, "Who are you and where are you? Come out in front of me." At this, that same voice says again, "What you've done, Zitoku, is no ordinary matter. You've killed a god of destruction, and you've killed several other gods too. You'll have to face the consequences for this." At this, hearing this, Zitoku grows even more confused, and he says, "A god of destruction? What nonsense are you spouting? I haven't killed anyone." At this, Zitoku immediately turns to look behind him, and there stands Zeno-sama, his guardians, and the Grand Priest. At this, seeing them, Zitoku is greatly shocked, and he says, "What, Zeno-sama? You? Where have I ended up? And all of you, here?" At this, Zitoku can't make sense of anything, and he slowly begins to step backward. At this, the Grand Priest steps forward and says, "Zitoku, perhaps you don't remember what you've done, but that power of yours has wreaked tremendous devastation. You killed the god of destruction Beerus, and you killed several other gods as well." At this, hearing this, Zitoku grows even more astonished, and he says, "No, this is impossible. I've done nothing of the sort. Why would I kill anyone? I can't even remember anything." At this, the Grand Priest says, "You don't remember because that power wasn't yours, Zitoku. It was the power of the Dark Potara, which had taken complete control of you, and that power made you do everything you never wanted to do." At this, Zitoku looks at both his hands and says, "The Dark Potara? Something is coming back to me. Whis had thrown a Potara, and after that I can't remember anything." At this, Zeno-sama, who had been standing silently until now, steps forward and says, "Zitoku, what you've done is a very terrible thing. You've killed many gods of this universe, and now I have to decide what's to be done with you." At this, hearing this, Zitoku grows afraid and says, "No, Zeno-sama, I truly swear I don't remember anything. I didn't want to do this. That power made me do all of it." At this, the Grand Priest says, "Zeno-sama, consider for a moment if Zitoku is telling the truth, and he was under the control of the Dark Potara's power, then it isn't his fault. But even so, what's been done has its consequences." At this, Zeno-sama thinks for a moment and says, "You're right, Grand Priest. But even so, the deaths of so many gods are no small matter." At this, Zitoku falls to his knees and says, "Zeno-sama, I truly didn't know what I was doing. If I'm given a chance, I'll try to set everything right. I'll never use that power which harms others." At this, Zeno-sama looks at him and falls silent for a while. Just then, we all see that Zitoku, kneeling on the ground, is looking toward Zeno-sama and pleading for a chance. But Zeno-sama completely ignores his words and, with anger, gives an order to his two guardians, saying, "Go and teach this foolish, senseless one a proper lesson." At this, Zeno-sama's two guardians say, "All right, as you wish, Zeno-sama." At this, Zitoku says in a panic, "No, Zeno-sama, please, just give me one chance. I'm ready to set everything right. I'll never use that power. I swear to you, just give me one chance." At this, Zeno-sama says, "No, Zitoku, it's far too late now. Face the consequences of what you've done." At this, Zeno-sama's two guardians suddenly launch their attack on Zitoku, and then we all see that Zitoku is being beaten badly by the two guardians. One guardian lands a powerful punch on Zitoku's face, and the other lands a kick on his stomach. Zitoku can't do anything, because his body is still weak, and he falls to the ground. At this, Zitoku tries to rise again, and looking toward Zeno-sama, says, "Zeno-sama, please just listen to me this once. I'm telling the truth." But Zeno-sama gives no reply to anything Zitoku says. He simply wants to watch him being beaten, which is why he does nothing and merely watches Zitoku take a beating with anger-filled eyes. At this, one guardian grabs Zitoku by the hair and lifts him up, landing another powerful punch on his face. Blood comes out of Zitoku's mouth and he falls to the ground again. At this, Zitoku says once more, "Zeno-sama, I truly didn't want to do any of that. Listen to me just once." But Zeno-sama still stands silently and says nothing. At this, the two guardians attack Zitoku again and begin beating him in a very brutal manner. Lying on the ground, Zitoku screams out very loudly, but no one comes to his aid. At this, Zitoku's anger slowly begins to spiral out of control, and that dark power within him begins to awaken once more. At this, Zitoku says with anger, "That's enough. Since you have no wish to listen to me at all, then I won't leave anyone here alive." The moment he says this, Zitoku's strength suddenly begins to surge, and he slowly stands up. At this, the two guardians come to attack him again. But then, with a single powerful blast, Zitoku strikes both of Zeno-sama's guardians. At this, we all see that the two guardians go crashing far away from Zitoku's blast, and then Zitoku turns towards Zeno-sama and says, "So, are you ready, Zeno-sama, to die at my hands?" Just then, we all see that Zitoku is throwing his full strength against Zeno-sama, and he keeps building up his power even further. That dark power now begins to emerge completely from within him once more. At this, the two guardians, who until now had been lying far away, slowly rise. And seeing all of this, they grow quite astonished. And then one of them says, "This is impossible. How is his strength surging so much? He was unconscious just a moment ago." At this, the other guardian says, "This is the very power that killed Beerus. Now it has awoken once more. We'll have to do something, otherwise he'll destroy everything." At this, Zeno-sama looks towards Zitoku and says, "Zitoku, stop. You don't know what you're doing. This is my final warning, stop." At this, Zitoku completely ignores Zeno-sama's words and says, "No, I won't stop now. Now, I'll most certainly finish all of you off." The moment he says this, Zitoku hurls himself at Zeno-sama with his full strength and begins advancing toward him. At this, all the gods grow quite afraid at the sight and say, "What is he doing? He's attacking Zeno-sama. He's gone mad." At this, the guardians try to advance, but even they can't move forward against Zitoku's strength. At this, the moment Zitoku reaches right up close to Zeno-sama and is about to launch his attack, at that very instant, the Grand Priest suddenly appears before Zitoku and lands a very powerful hit on Zitoku's stomach. Zitoku can't make sense of it and can't block that hit. And then blood comes out of Zitoku's mouth, and all his strength vanishes in an instant, as it were, and he falls to the ground unconscious. At this, all the gods grow a little calmer at the sight, and Belmod says, "The Grand Priest stopped him with a single hit." At this, Champa says, "Yes, there's no match for the Grand Priest's strength." At this, all the gods look toward the Grand Priest. At this, the Grand Priest looks toward Zitoku's unconscious body, and then, turning toward Zeno-sama, says, "Zeno-sama, what's to be done with him now? This fool has crossed every limit. He even tried to attack your palace." At this, Zeno-sama falls silent for a while and looks at Zitoku's unconscious body, and then he says with anger, the same thing that happens to all other criminals. As their fists collide, sparks violently fly, cutting through the absolute darkness of the void. Goku throws a heavy punch, Vegeta blocks it swiftly and counters. Both fight with every ounce of their strength, pushing each other to become stronger. Vegeta, mid-clash. "Kakarot, if what Tronus said is true, then those entities killed Beerus. That means they are far beyond anything we've faced. If we ever have to fight them, we must be prepared starting right now." Goku throws another powerful punch, smiling through the grit. Goku, "That's exactly why I'm saying this, Vegeta. Let's fight as hard as we can. This place might be dark, but at least we have all the time we need." Their power levels continuously skyrocket, their radiating auras tearing through the oppressive darkness. After a relentless session, both of them grow exhausted, dropping to the ground, panting heavily. Vegeta breathing hard. "Kakarot, this isn't enough. We need to ascend even higher." Goku smiling. "Yeah, Vegeta, but first, let's just catch our breath for a second." Cut back to the battlefield outside. Whis is seen totally dominating the fight against the two gods. Both gods are completely worn out, gasping for breath, while Whis remains as calm and composed as he was at the start. Whis decides to unleash a devastating attack. He brings both of his hands together, channeling a massive beam of divine energy. The attack is so blindingly fast that the two gods stand no chance of dodging. The beam makes direct contact, triggering a colossal explosion that illuminates the entire sky. As the smoke clears, Whis watches closely, assuming the gods have been vaporized. The dust slowly dissipates. Whis turns his gaze towards Zitoku, who is still bound tightly in divine chains. Whis begins to speak. "Whis, "Zitoku, it's all over now. I will free you." Suddenly, the menacing voices of the two gods echo from behind the smoke. First God, what did you think, you foolish angel, that we would die from a pathetic flash of light like that? Whis whips around instantly. Emerging from the clearing smoke, both gods stand tall. Their divine armor is shattered, and their bodies are covered in wounds, but they are very much alive. Cruel, evil grins spread across their faces. Both gods, enough is enough. No more games. Let's combine our efforts and end this once and for all. With those words, both gods blitz forward to attack Whis. One charges from the right, the other from the left, striking in perfect unison. This time, their speed and power are on a completely different level. Whis is caught off guard. The synchronized blows hit him squarely, sending him crashing into the distance. A massive shockwave tears the ground apart. Whis rises immediately, tapping into his full power. A radiant blue aura flares up around him. He engages them again, but this time the tides have turned. The gods have unlocked a mysterious new surge of power, and Whis is struggling to hold his ground. Whenever Whis strikes one god, the other lands a blindside hit from behind. When Whis fires an energy blast, they combine their power to neutralize it completely. The angel who used to predict their every move is now reacting a second too late. One god strikes his shoulder, while the other hammers his back. A gasp of pain escapes Whis' lips. Gradually, Whis begins to lose his breath as the two gods completely overwhelm him. First god, laughing arrogantly. "What's the matter, angel? Weren't you just bragging about how you hadn't even started yet? Where did that smug smile go?" Whis wipes a streak of divine blood from his mouth, maintaining his composure. Whis, calmly. "The smile is still here. You are simply too blind to see it." Second god. "Hey, clueless angel. Your existence ends right here, forever." The two gods raise their hands together, forging a colossal sphere of destruction. The concentrated energy burns so intensely, it resembles a roaring star. With a malicious shout, they hurl it directly at Whis. Whis extends both hands forward, trying desperately to halt its momentum, but the sphere is overwhelmingly powerful, driving him backward through the terrain. The blast detonates, leaving Whis severely injured on the ground, blood dripping from his mouth. Fatally wounded by the attack, Whis tries to push himself up, his hand trembling violently against the rubble, unable to stand. First, God mocking, "Oh ho ho, look at this. How is he going to free the God Killer now? Because right here, right now, we are going to trap and finish him off for good, and you won't be able to do a single thing about it, Whis." Whis, clinging to his remaining strength, pleading, "No, don't do this. Please, stop." Whis tries to stand again, but fails, his fingers desperately clawing at the dirt as his body gives out. The gods turn their attention to the bound warrior. Second god. "Fine then. Now watch how brutally we break this one." Turning away from the fallen angel, both gods unleash a merciless, heavy assault directly on Zitoku. Bound tightly by the chains, Zitoku is entirely defenseless, taking one devastating blow after another. A brutal strike lands on his face, followed by another crushing blow to his chest. The chains dig deep into his wrists as he tries to strain against them. Unable to fight back, Zitoku roars out in pure agony, his agonizing screams echoing across the heavens. He glares at the torturers. Zitoku screaming through the pain, Just let me break free from here once. Just once. After that, none of you will survive my wrath. Do you hear me?" Hearing his desperate threat, both gods burst into mocking laughter. First god. "What? You? Breaking free? What a hilarious joke. But let me tell you something. To kill us, you'll have to break those chains first. And that is absolutely impossible. These are no ordinary chains. They were forged by the gods themselves. Not even your entire power could ever break them." Immediately following the threat, both gods focus their energies together, creating a colossal sphere of destruction. This time, the ball is far more massive than anything before. Raising it high between their palms, the gods look down with cruel eyes. Both gods, goodbye. They hurl the catastrophic energy ball straight towards Zitoku. The sphere blazes forward, its overwhelming radiance illuminating Zitoku's defenseless face. Resigned to his fate, Zitoku closes his eyes. But suddenly, out of nowhere, Whis blitzes into the center of the path, summoning every single drop of his remaining divine strength. Whis halts the massive energy ball with a single, desperate block. His entire body trembles violently, his feet sink deep into the ground, and the veins in his arms strain to their absolute limits, yet Whis holds the ball. Divine blood pours from his mouth, but he refuses to take even a single step backward. Whis gritting his teeth through pure agony. As long as I am standing, I will not allow you two to harm anyone else. Do you understand? Witnessing this impossible feat, both gods freeze in absolute shock, their faces turning pale. First god, how is this possible? How did he manage to do that? He was on the verge of death. He shouldn't have any strength left to fight. With a mighty surge of force, Whis forcefully redirects the massive energy ball with one hand, launching it high into the heavens, where it detonates like a roaring second sun. Whis then locks his gaze onto the two gods. The pain that once filled his eyes is entirely gone. Now, there is only a cold, unyielding judgment. Whis, what are you staring at? Your death stands right before you, and from this moment on, nothing in existence can save you. Before the words even fade, Whis vanishes. He reappears instantly, brutally decimating both gods one after the other, with terrifying speed, precision, and unstoppable force. He is completely back to his prime self. One god desperately tries to counter, but Whis is already behind him. A single, crushing strike sends the god crashing into the dirt. The second god attempts to flee, but Whis materializes directly in his path, blocking his escape. Whis, each word cold and absolute. You both made a fatal mistake just now. You struck me down. You assumed I wouldn't be able to rise again. But the very moment you laid hands on Zitoku, you signed your own death warrants. Out of sheer desperation, one god unleashes a final, panicked energy blast. Whis catches it casually with his palm and reflects it straight back into the god's face. Whis, I told you before, as long as I am here, you cannot harm a soul. Whis begins to forge a massive blinding ki blast. Radiant divine energy converges between his palms, absorbing the surrounding light. The energy is so immensely vast that the entire sky turns into a brilliant shade of cosmic blue. Lying defeated and broken on the ground, the two gods experience true terror for the very first time. One of them speaks in a trembling, cracked voice. Second god, wait. Stop, angel. We can negotiate a compromise. Whis unwavering, full of resolve. A compromise? When you were brutally torturing Zitoku, when you were ripping my world away from me, did you think about a compromise then? It is far too late for that now. Whis releases the cataclysmic blast directly at them. The two gods scream, trying to scramble away, but there is nowhere left to run. The blast engulfs them entirely. A colossal, blinding explosion tears through the void, its shockwave radiating across the vast expanse of space. As the smoke slowly clears, an absolute dead silence falls over the area. The energy signatures of the two gods have completely vanished. They are eradicated for good. The sky returns to a vast emptiness, leaving behind only the faint whistle of the cosmic wind. Whis turns and slowly limps towards Zitoku, his steps unsteady due to the severe, fatal injuries he sustained. Stopping right in front of the bound warrior, Whis looks down at him softly. Whis, there is something I must tell you. Zitoku, what is it? What do you want to tell me, Whis? Whis taking a deep, heavy breath. A new god has arrived in Universe 7, someone of unimaginable power. He is far more strict and unyielding in his words and actions than Lord Beerus ever was. Once he gives a command, he will see it through to the end. And he is utterly ruthless. Zitoku listens intently, processing the dark warning. Whis continues. Whis, furthermore, the rest of the gods have grown incredibly arrogant. Ever since they defeated you, their entire demeanor has shifted drastically. They used to be protectors. Now, they only wish to rule with an iron fist. Whis' voice drops lower, carrying a profound weight of sorrow. Whis, and they have acted upon that cruelty. They have stripped away the most precious thing I possessed, something that was exceptionally close to my heart. My fondest memories were bound to it, and they will remain with me forever. Whis pauses for a beat, as if a distant, beautiful memory is flashing before his eyes. Whis, I protected that place for countless centuries. I watched it grow. I watched life flourish there, laughing, fighting, loving, and thriving. To me, it wasn't just a location in space. It was my home. Zitoku looks up, seeing something he has never witnessed before, a profound human heartbreak etched across the face of an angel. Whis speaks further. Whis, let me tell you one more thing. An angel is never meant to act on personal desires. We only follow the laws. We observe, we guard, but we never interfere. That is our sacred decree. Whis. Yet today, I am choosing to shatter that rule. Zitoku confused, straining against the chains. What? What are you trying to say, Whis? I don't understand. Whis. Do not worry, Zitoku. You will understand everything very soon. With those final words, Whis extends his hand toward the chains. Zitoku watches in complete bewilderment. Whis directs his open palm toward the divine restraints. Suddenly, a unique, radiant aura erupts from within. Whis, a magnificent light, blending brilliant blue and shimmering gold, enveloping his entire form. Closing his eyes, he speaks a single command. Whis, release. Instantly, the divine chains binding Zitoku shatter into a million pieces. The heavy metallic fragments splinter into the air, dissolving into pure particles of light before vanishing completely. Zitoku drops heavily onto his knees, his legs completely devoid of strength after being bound for so long. But as he looks up, his eyes widen in utter shock. Tears silently stream down Whis' face as his body begins to slowly fade away. His hands, his shoulders, and his torso are gradually dissolving into glowing stardust, merging into the void. Zitoku screaming out in panic. Whis, stop, please, hold on. Why are you doing this? I don't want this freedom if the cost of it is your life. Whis merely offers a gentle, serene smile. His voice now sounds distant, echoing from afar. Ah, Whis, this is not a price, Zitoku. This is my choice. In the endless life of an angel, there are very few moments where one can truly choose their own path. Today, I made mine. Zitoku is struck completely speechless, a suffocating knot tightening in his throat. He reaches his hand out desperately toward the fading angel, trying to grasp onto him, but his fingers grasp nothing but empty air. Tears stream uncontrollably from Zitoku's eyes. Whis completely vanishes from sight. In his final microsecond, the expression on his face is one of pure peace, like someone who has finally been unburdened of a colossal weight. His parting whisper echoes through the wind. Whis, take care of yourself, Zitoku, and never forget the ones you love. Zitoku falls completely silent, kneeling alone in the void as his tears hit the ground. Zitoku thinking to himself, voice trembling with grief. Whis, why did you do it? Why? I completely misjudged you. I thought you were just like the rest of those arrogant gods. But you actually came here to save me. Zitoku, speaking out loud, crying. And I didn't even trust you. You gave up your absolute existence just to grant me my freedom. You broke the one sacred law that angels value above their own lives. And I was completely helpless to stop it. Suddenly, a brilliant beacon of light pierces the darkness right in front of him. When the glare subsides, he sees Whis' angelic staff hovering gently in the air, slowly rotating left behind as its master's final parting gift. Stunned, Zitoku slowly extends his arm and wraps his fingers around the staff. The moment he touches it, a profound warmth surges through him, as if a fragment of Whis' living essence is still vibrant within it. For a brief second, it feels as though Whis is standing right beside him, placing a reassuring hand on his shoulder. Zitoku, looking at the staff, whispering, "You left this for me, didn't you? So that I wouldn't have to walk this path alone, so that I could find my way forward." Images of his family flash across his mind. A fragile glimmer of hope returns to his face. Zitoku, it has been so long since I last saw my family. I was locked away in those miserable chains for an eternity. But now that I'm completely free, I can finally go back to them. Mom, Dad, I'm coming home. Zitoku looks down at his own physical state. He is heavily battered and covered in severe wounds. His clothes are ripped to shreds, and dried blood covers his skin. He raises the staff, commanding it to restore him. Zitoku, heal me. The tip of the staff erupts in a soothing, brilliant light. Instantly, Zitoku's body is fully rejuvenated. His deep gashes close up, his stamina returns, and a massive surge of power floods his veins. He stands up firmly. Taking flight, Zitoku blasts through space, heading directly toward the coordinates of Earth. His heart beats with a single burning desire to embrace his family, reunite with his friends, and see his world once more. He tears through the cosmos toward home. But as he arrives at the destination, Earth is completely gone. He stands precisely where the planet should be orbiting, but there is absolutely nothing there. Only a vast, dead emptiness populated by drifting space rocks and debris. He halts in midair, scanning the void in utter disbelief. Zitoku, no, this is the exact spot. My world was supposed to be right here. I didn't take a wrong turn. This is the place. Refusing to accept the reality, he closes his eyes tightly, focusing every ounce of his senses to lock onto the energy signatures of his family and friends. He eyes the faces of his mother, his father, and his companions, desperately calling out for their key. But there is absolutely nothing. No energy signature from Earth, his family, or his friends exists anywhere in the sector. Only a harrowing, endless silence remains, as if every single life force has been completely wiped from the face of the universe. Zitoku panic and despair overtaking his face. How can this be? So many people, and not a single soul left. Why can't I feel anyone's energy? Suddenly, Whis' final words echo vividly in his mind. They have stripped away the most precious thing I possessed. It was my home. The puzzle pieces instantly snapped together in his mind. Whis was the angel of Universe 7. Earth was under his direct protection. And when the gods grew drunk on power and sought absolute dominion, they struck at Whis by vaporizing his most beloved treasure, Earth, the very planet where Zitoku's entire family lived. The realization unleashes a tidal wave of pure, unadulterated fury inside Zitoku, a rage far more terrifying than anything he has ever felt in his entire life. His hands shake violently as a volatile mix of tears and absolute malice floods his eyes. Zitoku, voice dropping into a demonic whisper. My home, my mother, my father, my friends, they are all gone, eradicated, by those wretched gods, for absolutely no fault of their own. Zitoku loses all control, throwing his head back and screaming like a madman. His agonizing roar reverberates through the dead silence of the empty space, vibrating so intensely that the surrounding asteroids violently shatter into dust. He begins to wildly power up. A cataclysmic, dark aura explodes from his body, expanding outward in massive waves. The fabric of space twists into a vortex as his power reaches unprecedented heights. The devastating truth settles in planet Earth is no more. His tears vaporize instantly against the intense heat of his ascending aura. His scream is no longer one of mere grief. It is a blood oath of vengeance. Gripping Whis' staff tightly in his hand, a roaring fire, identical to the one that burned in Tronos' eyes, ignites within Zitoku. A fire to systematically slaughter the gods. Zitoku, wiping his face, eyes burning with malice. Gods, you stole my world. You stole Whis' home. You stole Tronos' life and condemned his brother to exile. You truly believed you were supreme deities above all judgment, that no one would ever dare question your actions. But today, I am bringing the questions, and I will deliver the final answers myself. Whis' parting words ring one last time through his mind. Never forget the ones you love. Zitoku clenches his fist tightly around the staff, which flares with an intense, ominous light. Zitoku, Whis, you traded your life for my freedom. I swear to you, I will not let your sacrifice be in vain. I will make those gods answer for every single one of their sins. Every single one. In the desolate void of space where Earth once thrived, the blinding light of Zitoku's terrifying skyrocketing power marks the birth of a catastrophic storm. Inside the staff of Zitoku, in that vast and silent space where time itself seems to stand still, where there is no sound and no movement, all the gods of destruction stood in a single row. Before them, far away, in the middle of the dark black cosmos, a blue sphere floated planet Earth. That same blue-green sphere, wrapped in a thin white layer of clouds, shining in the midst of that darkness like some precious, lonely pearl. Looking at it, anyone would say how unique this planet was, how alive, but in the eyes of those gods, there was no softness for it. Champa stood with both hands clasped behind his back, his eyes fixed on that small blue planet, without blinking. Beside him stood Belmode, no expression on his face, just a cold, deep, empty gaze, as though he wasn't looking at Earth but weighing it. Kutela, Likir, and all the other gods stood there too, looking in the same direction, all their breaths alike, all their intentions alike. No one was surprised. There was no curiosity in anyone's eyes. On all of their faces, there was just one thing: decision. They were looking at Earth the way a hunter eyes its prey, right before the kill. The fate of that blue planet had already been written in all of their eyes. Such a tiny planet, Belmode said softly, his voice echoing for a long time in that silent place. There was no anger in that voice, no joy, just a plain, cold statement. And such a small place made such a big mistake. Champa nodded his head slightly, his gaze still on Earth. The people living on it are too proud of their power, he said. They think they won't lose to anyone. They think their planet will last forever. His eyes narrowed, and his voice grew colder. Today this pride of theirs will break too, and so will this planet. Both. A faint, cruel smile came to Kutela's lips. He kept his gaze fixed on Earth. Then, "What are we waiting for?" he said. "Let's do what has to be done. I take no pleasure in this waiting." Belmode looked at that blue sphere once more, with a deep gaze, as though writing the verdict of its end in his own eyes. Then he said quietly, "Earth, your end is now certain. It won't take long for you to be erased." No one objected to this. No one raised a question. No hesitation. No mercy. No doubt. There was nothing of the sort among those gods. They were all looking at that blue planet one last time from afar, the way someone wants to carefully remember a thing before erasing it. But there was not the slightest bit of softness in their intentions. And in that moment, far away, on that blue planet, every human was busy in their ordinary, everyday life. Someone was going to work, someone was with their family, someone was laughing, someone was crying. No one knew that so far away, in a place where time stops, certain powers had already decided the end of their entire planet. They did not know that their tomorrow would now never come. The gods began to move together toward that blue planet. Behind them all was endless darkness, and right ahead Earth, unaware of its final hours, shining. Its last day was about to begin. In a single moment, the sky seemed to split open. Right in the middle of one of Earth's large, bustling cities, a strange movement occurred in the air, as though some unknown power was tearing through the fabric of the sky. And then, suddenly, all the gods of destruction appeared there, in the middle of the road, in the sunlight, right in front of a crowd of thousands of people. In the first moment, no one understood anything, but as soon as the gods' feet touched the ground of that city, their own gaze settled on the place spread out before them. Tall buildings touching the sky, lush green trees swaying in the wind, the clear blue sky, and people, ordinary people busy in their lives. Earth was truly beautiful, so beautiful that for a moment even those gods paused and began to fill this planet into their eyes, as though seeing something beautiful for the first time. But for the people of the city, this sight was not beauty, it was terror. People walking on the road froze in their places. Cars stopped. Everyone began to stare at those strange, unfamiliar beings they had never seen in their entire lives. Who are all these?" a man said in a hushed voice, stepping back. "Look at them," a woman whispered, clutching her child to herself. "How strange they look." "No idea where these people have come from," another said. But the fear in his voice was clear. Slowly, murmurs began to spread through the crowd. People only asking each other the same question: who exactly these strange beings were, and where they had come from. But no one had an answer. Just then, the loud sound of a siren came from far away, and in no time army vehicles and police vehicles arrived at the spot. Soldiers and police officers quickly got out of their vehicles, raised their weapons, and forming a long line, began to move slowly toward the gods. There was hesitation on their faces, somewhere fear too, but the duty of the uniform had brought them forward. One police officer came forward ahead of everyone. He puffed out his chest and with all his strength shouted in a loud voice, "Listen, all of you! You all should bow your heads. Bow your heads before us." Champa slowly turned his head and looked at that man. There was no anger on his face, just a cold indifference as though a small thing had caught his attention. The officer's courage grew. He took one more step forward, repeating his words again, raising his voice even louder. But before he could say one more word, Champa made only a slight movement so fast that the eye of no human standing in the crowd could catch it. In a single stroke, that officer was finished right where he stood. The man who a moment ago stood with chest puffed out, the very next instant was nothing at all, as though he had never been there. A deep silence fell over the entire crowd. No one could believe their own eyes about what had just happened in front of them. A moment ago there was a living human, the next moment nothing. The soldiers froze in their places, their weapons trembling in their hands. Champa turned his gaze back to that city, as though nothing had just happened. "So much noise," he said softly, "and over what?" The moment that officer was finished, it was as though a dam had broken and washed away. Screams echoed through the entire crowd. People began to run in all directions to save their lives. The roads filled with a stampede, people colliding with each other, knocking each other down, trampling each other, just trying to get away from that place. Children were crying, mothers were screaming, cars were crashing into each other. In no time, the whole city was drowned in chaos. But amidst all of them, the faction of the army and police held firm in their places. Instead of running, they chose to fight. A soldier shouted out an order with all his strength, and the next instant a rain of bullets began from every direction. The tanks turned their barrels toward the gods and began firing shells one after another. Flames of fire began to erupt from the barrels of guns. Thousands of bullets began flying at the gods all at once. The entire field filled with explosions and smoke. But those bullets, those shells, had no effect on the gods at all. The bullets struck their bodies and fell down like someone hitting a strong stone wall. The big shells of the tanks became useless in the air right in front of them, leaving no mark. The gods stood there, without moving an inch, without a moment's panic. On their faces was that same calm, as though this entire attack was just a slight nuisance to them. Belmode slowly lowered his head and looked at that smoke-filled field from which the attack on him was coming continuously. On his face, for the first time, a slight displeasure rose. The noise of the bullets, the echo of the explosions, all of this was tearing at his calm patience, and he did not like it at all. "You all," he said softly, but his cold voice, cutting through that entire noise, echoed to every corner of the field. "How ill-mannered you are." And saying this, he raised his hand just once, slowly, with that one small movement. It was as though the whole world held its breath and stopped for a moment. Then, one after another, all the tanks began to explode with terrifying explosions, turning into great clouds of fire and smoke. The guns shattered to pieces in those soldiers' hands, as though they had never been metal. The weapons that just a moment ago were spewing fire now turned into mere useless, burnt pieces of iron. And then, all those police officers, all those soldiers who had just been firing at them with Belmode's that one gesture, they were finished right there. In the field, there now remained only smoke, burnt metal, and a deep, heavy silence. Belmode slowly lowered his hand and cast an indifferent gaze over that silent, ruined field. "The nerve to attack us with such weak power," he said. "They have not the slightest idea of their own worth." The people of the city who were still running, their steps faltered. They turned back fearfully to look, and what they saw broke even the last hope inside them. Those they trusted the most, their army, their police, their protectors, had all been erased in a moment. Now there was nothing left between them and these gods. Absolutely nothing. Amidst that destruction, above that burning, smoke-filled field, suddenly three figures descended swiftly from the sky. Piccolo, Tien, and Chiaotzu. The three landed on that burnt road, and what they saw all around them made their hair stand on end. Broken tanks, scattered metal, scorched ground, and amidst it all, the unknown, powerful gods, standing calmly. These were no ordinary enemies. The three understood this the moment they saw them. Piccolo's eyes swept all around, trying to understand the destruction. "What is all this that's happening?" he said, both anger and confusion together in his voice. "Why are you all here? Who did all this?" Belmode slowly turned and looked toward the three of them. On his face was that same cold, deep calm, as though their arrival had made no difference to him at all. "This is the last day of your planet," he said in a calm voice. "Consider it so." The color of Piccolo's face changed. He looked for a moment toward Tien and Chiaotzu, and the three understood each other without saying a single word. There was no question of running. There was no path other than to move forward. Belmode advanced toward them, slowly, without any haste, as though he already knew what the outcome of this battle would be. And then, the three attacked together. Tien lunged forward first, tearing through the air, and with all his strength began raining punches on Belmode one after another, so fast that his hands stopped being visible. Chiaotzu rose high into the air and began concentrating his mental power on Belmode, pouring all his strength into it. And Piccolo joined both his hands and formed a powerful beam, which blazed like fire and advanced straight toward Belmode. The three warriors put the entire strength of their lives into this one attack, without stopping, without breathing, without a moment's doubt. But none of it was of any use. Belmode stood there, completely calm. Those fast, powerful punches of Tien struck his body and became useless, like someone punching at stone. Chiaotzu's mental power scattered and vanished in the air around Belmode, and Piccolo's that blazing beam, which had come with full force, struck straight at Belmode's chest, and nothing. Belmode didn't even budge, not an inch. On his face was that same calm, as though a child were teasing him, and he was only feeling a slight tickle. All the attacks became useless. The three warriors were out of breath. Their bodies began to tremble with exhaustion. Their hands began to fall, but not even a scratch had come upon Belmode. They had given all their strength, and it had produced no result. On the faces of the three now descended the truth they had until now refused to accept. They could not win. And then Belmode moved, so fast that none of the three could even see him. A moment ago he stood far away. The next instant he was right in front of Tien. In a single stroke, with one blow from Belmode, Tien's body flew back into the air and was finished right there so easily, as though he had never been a warrior at all. Chiaotzu tried to scream out his friend's name, but that scream of his wasn't even completed. Belmode reached him in a moment and erased him too, without any effort, like someone swatting away a fly with their hand. Now in that whole field, only Piccolo remained. Piccolo slowly began to step back. His breathing had grown fast. His chest was rising and falling. He had just watched both his companions be erased before his very eyes, and he knew well that his strength was nothing before these gods, absolutely nothing. But he did not run. He planted his feet on the ground, slowly raised his hands, made one last attempt to fight, but his entire body was trembling from within, and he could not hide it. Belmode walked slowly and came to stand right in front of Piccolo. He was looking at Piccolo with a calm gaze, and in Piccolo's eyes, that fear was clearly showing through, which he was trying with all his courage to hide. A long, heavy moment passed between the two, in which there was only the sound of Piccolo's fast breaths. "Are you ready?" Belmode finally asked softly, no haste in his voice. "To die?" Before Piccolo could say anything, do anything, even think anything, Belmode's hand rose and in a moment landed straight on Piccolo's face. Just one blow, and Piccolo was finished right where he stood. His body collapsed onto that burnt, ruined ground, and everything became calm again. Belmode slowly lowered his hand and cast one last gaze over that silent field. Three warriors, who just a few moments ago had come to save their planet now, no one remained there. On Belmode's face was that same cold, deep calm, as though nothing had happened at all. "Useless," he said softly, casting his gaze over the ruined field. "They're coming, they're fighting, all their effort, all useless." From behind Belmode, Champa came forward. He cast an indifferent gaze over that silent, ruined field, where just a moment ago, three warriors had met their end. On his face was something like irritation at the waste of time. "What will be gained by killing all of these?" Champa said. "These ordinary people, these weak warriors, there's no use wasting our time on them. The one we've come here for, let's go there." And saying this, in a single moment, all the gods vanished from that place. The very next instant, they appeared in front of a house, nestled quietly far away among the mountains in front of Chi-Chi's house. That same house where the family of Earth's most powerful warriors lived. But right now, there was only one familiar face there, Krillin. Krillin was outside the house when he suddenly saw all of them appear right in front of him. All the gods of destruction, together, standing in the courtyard of his friend's house. In a moment, all the color drained from Krillin's face. His heart began to sink. He took one step back, then another. His entire body trembled. "No," he said, stammering, his voice catching in his throat. "You, all of you here? What are you all doing here?" Champa glared at him with a cold gaze, and a cruel, careless smile came to his lips. "Yes, why?" he said in a calm, cold voice. "Do we have to ask you now to come here? We've come here to kill all of you. That's all there is to it." And saying this, Champa did not waste even a moment. He swiftly reached Krillin and swung his fist with all his strength straight toward him. Krillin had not even a moment to move, to run, or to save himself. In his eyes, there was just the dread of that coming blow. But that fist never reached Krillin. In a moment, tearing through the air, Gohan arrived there. He pulled Krillin away in the air at just the right time and saved him from Champa's that deadly blow. Gohan moved back a little, carrying Krillin, holding an old friend in his arms, and slowly landed on the ground. On his face was sharp anger, and in his eyes that unbelieving glint that this was really happening. Gohan put Krillin behind him and, looking straight at the gods, shouted, "Have you all gone mad? You are gods of destruction, and you are killing an ordinary human like this? A human who doesn't even have the strength to fight you? What kind of justice is this? What kind of righteousness is this?" Krillin stood behind Gohan, breathing fast, still not fully out of the shock of that blow. All the gods stood calmly listening to Gohan, no remorse on their faces, just that same cold indifference. Champa tilted his head slightly, and that cruel smile on his face deepened. He had no fear of Gohan's this anger, this defiance rather. There was a kind of interest. "So you've come out in front too," he said softly. "Good, very good. Today all of you will die. Not even one will be spared, not even one." Gohan, who was still standing in anger, paused completely for a moment upon hearing Champa's that statement. "Today all of you will die." These words were echoing again and again in his ears. He still could not understand what exactly was happening. Until some time ago, everything was ordinary. And now the most powerful gods of the universe stood in the courtyard of his house, talking about erasing his entire planet. He swept his gaze over all the gods one by one, and on his face, along with anger, now came a deep confusion too. "Why?" Gohan said, trying his best to keep his voice steady. "What is the reason after all? What have we done that you've come to erase the whole planet? What have these ordinary people done to harm you? Speak! At least tell me one reason." Belmode slowly advanced. There was no haste in his steps. On his face was that same cold calm, but now there was something else in his eyes too. A deep, old resentment that had long been suppressed within. "Reason?" he said softly, as though weighing each word before speaking. "The reason is very big, child. So big that you won't even be able to understand it." He paused for a moment, fixing his gaze on Gohan. Then his voice grew colder and deeper. "Because of one Saiyan, only because of one Saiyan. Beerus is no more. Beerus, who was the god of destruction of this entire universe, whose job was to maintain balance. And one Saiyan, in his pride, in the intoxication of his power, erased him." Belmode looked straight into Gohan's eyes. "And now, the price of that one mistake will be paid by this entire planet. Now none of you will remain, not even one. This is justice." The color drained from Gohan's face. In his mind, in a single moment, thousands of questions spun around, colliding with each other. Because of one Saiyan, Beerus is no more? His heart sank, as though someone had emptied him out from within. Are these people talking about Dad, about Goku, or about Vegeta? The Saiyans were just them, only them. A cold wave ran through Gohan. If this was true, if all this was really happening because of some Saiyan, then this revenge was not being taken from just one man. This revenge was being taken from the entire planet, from every human who had nothing whatsoever to do with all of this. From his mother, from his brother, from these ordinary people who had never even met any god. "This, what are you talking about?" Gohan said, stammering, his voice trembling. "Dad, Vegeta, this can't be. And even if someone made a mistake, why should these innocent people pay the price for that mistake? They don't even know anything." But Belmode did not bother to give him an answer. For him, the time for talk was over. Instead, he and all the other gods began to advance slowly toward Gohan. A circle was forming gods on all sides, and right in the middle, Gohan alone. There was no haste on their faces, no anger. Just that same cold, certain gaze, as though for them this was only a task that remained to be completed, and there was no reason to delay it. Gohan planted his feet firmly on the ground. He knew well that he had no other way out. Right behind him was Krillin, still not out of the shock. Inside the house was his mother. Somewhere nearby was his little brother. He could not run if he ran. All of them would fall into the hands of these gods. He clenched both his fists, awakened all the strength inside him, and prepared himself for this nearly impossible fight. And then they all fell upon him together. Where the first blow came from, Gohan couldn't even see it. One god advanced quickly and struck him a heavy punch, which landed straight on his jaw and sent him flying back into the air. Gohan hadn't even managed to steady himself when another god was already behind him. Another blow landed on his back, and he began to fall toward the ground. The gods were passing him to one another as though he were a toy, one after another, without a moment's delay. Attacks were coming from every direction, and Gohan was not even getting a chance to recover. But Gohan did not give up. Right there in midair, he somehow steadied himself, turned toward his feet, and as the next god lunged at him, Gohan turned and threw a sharp punch with all his strength. His blow landed straight on that god's face, but the god moved back only slightly, and a faint smile came to his face, as though all of Gohan's strength fell to him like only a slight tickle. Gohan's eyes went wide. He had put all his strength into that one blow, and it had no effect at all. But he did not take time to stop and think. He advanced again, attacking one after another, pouring all his speed, all his power into those blows. A punch, a kick, another punch. He kept fighting without stopping, but every attack was going to waste. The gods were taking his blows as though they were air, as though they couldn't even feel Gohan's strikes. And then the gods struck back. One god caught Gohan's hand in midair and slammed him to the ground with all his strength. Gohan's back hit the ground, and his breath caught for a moment. He would try to get up, but before that, another god lifted him and struck him a heavy punch, which sent him flying into the air again. A third god landed a sharp kick that carried Gohan far away. They were surrounding Gohan on all sides and beating him a blow here, one there, one from above, one from below. Gohan's body trembled with each strike, but he would fall, steady himself, then get up, then try to fight again. Each time he would get up and try to strike back. Each time he would launch an attack with all his remaining strength, but each time his blow went to waste, and in return he had to endure 10 blows. His clothes slowly began to tear. Deep marks of injury began to surface on his body. Blood began to flow from the corner of his lips. But he did not stop. After every fall, he would get up again, because behind him was his family. The gods were completely unaffected by all this. For them, it was like a game, a prey that they were tiring out slowly, comfortably, without any haste, as though they were getting a cold pleasure from it. Belmont stood a little back, watching all this, that same calm on his face, like a master watching his servants at work. Gohan tried with all his strength to launch one last big attack. He joined both his hands, gathered all his remaining energy in one place, and released it at a god with all his strength. A sharp explosion occurred. Smoke rose all around. For a moment, everything was drowned in light. Gohan stood there panting, with the hope that perhaps this time something might happen. But when the smoke cleared, the god stood there, without a single scratch, looking at him calmly. Gohan's breathing was completely out. His knees began to tremble. He had put such a large portion of his strength into it, and it had produced no result at all. "You," Gohan said, panting, in broken words, "you all are not human. This isn't even possible." And right at this moment, a god struck a heavy blow from behind him, which knocked Gohan face down onto the ground. Gohan made one more attempt to get up, planted his trembling, blood-soaked hands on the ground, tried to lift his body up, but he had no strength left now. He lay there, panting, in the dust. And all around him stood the gods, calm, indifferent, not a scratch on them, as though they had only just begun and had all the time in the world before them. At that very moment, while Gohan lay on the ground, gathering all his remaining courage, suddenly a fast, small figure appeared in the air. Goten. Seeing his big brother in that state, surrounded by gods, lying bloodied, Goten's blood boiled. He couldn't think of anything, didn't reason anything without stopping for a moment. He jumped straight into the midst of the gods and began his attacks on all of them. "Leave my brother alone!" Goten screamed, throwing punches and kicks with his small strength as fast as he could. He would lunge from one god to another, trying to strike each one, pouring all his might with a child's anger. But at that very moment, Likir advanced. None of Goten's blows could even touch him. and as soon as Goten reached him with all his strength, Liquier threw a forceful, heavy punch at Goten. That blow was so powerful that Goten's small body flew far away into the air. He fell to the ground, rolled once, twice, and then lay there wounded, groaning in pain. His arms and legs were scraped, his clothes were torn, and he was trying to get up, but there was no longer enough strength left in his small body. "Goten!" Gohan screamed, stretching his trembling hand toward his brother. But he himself was in no condition to move, and his hand stopped halfway. And right then, the door of the house opened. Chi-Chi came out. Seeing both her sons in that state, one lying bloodied on the ground, the other surrounded by gods, all the fear inside a mother vanished in a moment, and in its place remained only a terrible anger. Without thinking anything, without pausing for a moment, she ran straight toward the gods. "Don't touch my children!" Chi-Chi screamed, and began striking the gods with both her hands. She was hitting them, pushing them, pouring all her motherly love, all her anger, all her pain into those blows. A mother was fighting for her children against a power before which great armies, powerful warriors, all had been erased. But her blows had no effect. The gods stood there, completely calm, as though they hadn't even noticed that someone was raising a hand against them. Chi-Chi's punches struck their bodies and became useless, like someone striking a stone wall. Champa slowly turned his head and looked at this ordinary woman who, without any strength, on the sheer power of her motherly love, was raising her hand against them. There was no anger on his face, just that same cold indifference, as though a very trivial thing was stopping him. And then, in a single stroke, Champa finished Chi-Chi, so easily that Chi-Chi did not even get the chance to say her last word, to look at her sons one last time. "Foolish human," Champa said in a cold voice, as though brushing away a fly. "Learn a little manners. Understand your worth. Understood?" Gohan's eyes went wide. Goten, who lay on the ground, stretching his hand toward his mother, stopped halfway. Both brothers had just, before their very eyes, watched their mother be lost, and neither of them could do anything. And amidst all this, the gods stood there calm, indifferent, as though nothing had happened, as though they had just done nothing special at all. Seeing his mother go like that, something broke inside Gohan. At first, he became completely calm, so calm that for a moment everything seemed to stop. No scream, no words, just a deep, terrible silence. Then, from within that silence, a heat slowly began to rise. His body began to tremble. The ground beneath his feet began to crack. Small stones began to rise into the air. The air around him grew hot, began to ripple, and his power began to rise so fast that it could be felt. He slowly began to rise up from the ground. His hair began to flutter in the air, and from his entire body, a sharp, blazing energy began to erupt, which grew bigger with every passing moment. Champa looked at him and laughed lightly. "He's a fool," he said, looking toward the other gods in a careless tone. "Look at him. The grief of his mother's passing is eating away at him from within. It seems he still doesn't understand who he's standing before. No matter how much you raise your power, the outcome will be the same." But Champa's words weren't even finished. In a moment, so fast that Champa himself couldn't even see him coming, Gohan was right in front of him. And the very next instant, Gohan threw a heavy blow at Champa with all his strength. In that blow was all his pain, all his anger, all the grief of losing his mother, his brother, his companions, all of it, filled into that one punch. The blow landed straight on Champa's face. And this time something really did happen. Champa's body flew back into the air, fast, far away. He fell to the ground, into a large crater, sending dust and stones flying all around. For a moment, all the gods paused. They looked at each other, as though they couldn't believe their own eyes. What just happened? A human, a Saiyan's child, sent Champa, a god of destruction, flying into the air. Gohan stood there panting, energy continuously erupting from his body. His eyes turned red with anger. He slowly swept his gaze over each god, one by one, and on whomever his gaze fell, that one paused for a moment. "You killed my mother," he said, his voice trembling, but with a terrible coldness in it, which was more frightening than even anger. "That was not right at all. You all should never have done this. A woman who couldn't even fight. A mother." His voice broke, and in its place, the anger grew sharper. "You will all pay the price for this." And saying this, Gohan fell upon them. He lunged from one god to another like lightning. A heavy blow on the first god, then toward the second, then on the third. Now his attacks did not have that earlier weakness. His grief, his anger, had filled him with a new, terrible strength. Every blow was faster than before, heavier than before. The gods were now a little more alert. They too began to strike back, with all their strength, and in no time a battle broke out between Gohan and all the gods such as had never happened before. The echo of blows began to spread everywhere in the air. Gohan would block one god's attack with his arm. In that same moment turn and strike at another god, duck down to dodge a third's incoming blow. The gods were surrounding him on all sides, but now Gohan was spinning among them with the speed of lightning, sometimes behind one, sometimes in front of another, striking at each, dodging the strikes of each. The ground trembled with their blows. An explosion echoed with every collision, and lines of their power began to appear in the sky. This was now a fight such as had perhaps never happened before. A lone warrior filled with grief and anger, and around him the most powerful gods of this universe. And this time, for the first time, those gods too were feeling Gohan's blows. His fist was landing on their faces. His kick was pushing them back. Gohan was pouring all his strength, all his grief, into every strike, as though he no longer cared about his own life, just revenge, just justice. On the gods' faces, there was now no longer that earlier complete calm. A slight seriousness had come over them. The strength with which this child was fighting was more than they had expected. But they still did not stop. They too kept striking back with all their strength, and that terrible battle between them grew even more intense. But this anger of Gohan's, this new strength, was not going to last long. There was no longer enough energy left in his body for him to keep fighting that fast, and he himself could feel it. Looking at the gods around him, Gohan made one last, terrible decision. He moved back quickly, a little away from the gods, and joining both his hands together, began to gather all his remaining energy in one place. Between his hands, a sharp blue light began to shine, which grew bigger and brighter with every passing moment. He was filling all the strength of his entire life, all his grief, all his anger, the power of his very last breath, all of it, into this one attack. The light grew so bright that the air around him began to tremble. "Take this!" Gohan screamed, and released all his power at once, with full force, at all the gods. A vast blue stream of energy advanced toward all the gods with the speed of lightning. And when it struck them, a terrible explosion occurred so big that the entire ground shook. A gale swept through. A sharp light enveloped everything all around. A vast cloud of smoke and energy rose all the way to the sky. For a moment, nothing was visible at all, just light, smoke, and the echo of the explosion. Gohan stood there panting, looking toward that rising smoke, with his last hope. He had truly put everything into it now. He had nothing left to give. If even this did nothing, then nothing would remain. His breathing was ragged, his knees were trembling, but his eyes were fixed on that smoke. And then, the smoke slowly began to clear, and what Gohan saw broke even his last remaining hope. All the gods stood right there, exactly where they had been before. Not even a scratch, not even a hair had moved. Even their clothes were the same. They just stood there, calm, looking toward Gohan, as though nothing had happened, as though that vast attack had been only a slight gust of wind to them. Belmode came forward slowly, and brushed away with his hand the last wisp of smoke floating before him. "Is that all?" he said, that same cold indifference in his voice. "Was that all your strength? Was that your last, biggest strike?" He slowly shook his head, as though he pitied Gohan. Now watch carefully what happens to you." And saying this, all the gods fell upon Gohan again. But this time, Gohan had nothing left. After emptying all his energy into that one attack, he was now in no condition even to stand up straight. The gods began beating him from all sides, one blow, then another, then a third. Gohan's body bent with every strike, but now he could not strike back. Now he could not even defend himself. He was just enduring the blows, one after another, without any defense. His knees gave way, he collapsed on the ground, and still the gods did not stop. They kept beating him even now, as though to make sure that he no longer had the strength to land even a single blow. Goten, who until now lay wounded on the ground a little distance away, was watching all of this with his own eyes. Seeing his big brother being beaten so mercilessly, the last bit of strength inside him awoke. Dragging his trembling, blood-soaked body, He slowly began to rise. His hands were trembling, his legs were faltering. Once he even fell, but still, he got up for his brother. "Stop it," Goten said, panting, gathering all his courage for each word. "Leave, my brother. Stop it." His voice was trembling, small, but in it was an anger, a courage far bigger than his small body. "Understand, you fools. Stop it now." The gods paused for a moment. They turned their gaze toward that small, blood-soaked boy, who, gathering all his might, trembling, stood before them. Goten's body was trembling, but now it was not from pain, it was from anger. He had watched his mother be lost before his very eyes. He had watched his brother be erased, and now all the grief, all the pain suppressed inside him was about to come out as fire. Goten looked toward the sky and let out a terrible, long scream. His voice echoed across the entire field, all the way to the mountains. The ground around him began to tremble. Small stones began to rise into the air. The air grew hot, began to ripple. And from his small body, sharp waves of energy began to erupt, one after another, each wave more powerful than the last. Then, with a sharp, blinding light, Goten's form changed. His hair turned golden and stood up in the air. His eyes began to shine with a sharp green light, and a layer of golden energy formed around his body. He had become a Super Saiyan, such a small child, and such great power. Kutela looked at him and slowly advanced. "I'll handle this one," he said to the other gods, bringing a cruel smile to his lips. He walked toward Goten comfortably, without any haste, and came to stand right in front of him. His gaze was on that small Super Saiyan, as though he were looking at a new, interesting thing. "You think yourself very strong," Kutela said, bending down a little, looking straight into Goten's shining eyes. There was a cold, mocking cruelty in his voice. "Such a small child, and such pride. Come, show me what is in this new strength of yours." Instead of answering, Goten put all his new strength into one blow. He filled all the energy of his body into his fist, and tearing through the air, struck a forceful, heavy punch straight at Kutela's face. The blow landed right on target, on Kutela's face. For a moment, a hope flickered in Goten's eyes. But Kutela didn't even budge. Instead, he slowly began to laugh. A cold, deep, cruel laugh that filled Goten's whole body with dread. "That's it?" he said, as though he were listening to a very amusing joke. "Was that your full strength? These children get so ill-mannered these days too." He slowly shook his head, still laughing. "You put all your new power into this one punch, and I didn't even feel a tickle." Goten's shining eyes went wide. His Super Saiyan blow, his full, new strength, into which he had poured all his grief, had no effect at all. The anger slowly began to vanish from his face, and in its place, a cold fear began to come. His golden light began to tremble a little. He slowly, step by step, began to back away, and Kutela advanced toward him with that same cruel smile. Just then, Krillin came forward, gathering all his remaining courage. Despite all his weakness, he lunged toward Kutela to save Goten. "Stay away from Goten," he screamed, closing his eyes with all his strength. He knew he had no power to fight Kutela, but he could not abandon that child like this. But as soon as Krillin reached Kutela, without changing his smile, slowly turned and finished him in a single strike. So easily, as though he had never been there, as though someone were brushing a leaf off the path. Krillin's last, brave attempt too went to waste, and now Goten was left completely alone. Kutela then turned his gaze back toward Goten. "Now it's your turn, child," he said, and his cruel smile deepened. And saying this, Kutela drew his sword from his waist. Its long, thin blade gleamed in the cold light. Goten would try to back away in fear, but he was still not out of the shock of Krillin's last moment, and his feet seemed to stick to the ground. His golden light was now trembling fast, close to going out. On his face now, there was only a child's fear, the fear that hid behind all that strength. Kutela was right in front of him in a moment. He raised his sword. Goten looked one last time toward his brother, who lay far away, helpless to do anything. And then, Kutela drove his sword into Goten's stomach. Goten's scream echoed in the air, a small, sharp scream, which then slowly began to grow quiet. And after that, Kutela did the cruelty that would make anyone shudder. With his sword, he tore through Goten's body, and Goten was split into two pieces. That golden light of the Super Saiyan, which just a few moments ago was so sharp, slowly went out. Goten's small body on that cold ground became silent forever. Kutela looked at the edge of his sword, then at the ground, and he began to laugh again. "What? Dead?" he said, with a terrible, careless laugh, as though he had just done some very trivial chore. Foolish child, didn't even recognize his own worth. Gohan, who lay helpless on the ground a little distance away, watched all this before his very eyes. His little brother, whom he had watched playing in his lap, going like that, and he could do nothing. Absolutely nothing. Seeing this happen to his little brother, the last wall inside Gohan broke too. First came a moment of deep, terrible silence, as though the whole world had held its breath and stopped all at once. No scream, no words, no tears, just an empty, deep silence. And then, from within that silence, something erupted from inside Gohan that had never erupted before. He slowly began to rise, but now there was no weakness, no exhaustion in his body. The ground around him went beyond cracking and began to split open. Clouds began to spin rapidly in the sky. The air filled with a terrible heat. His power began to rise so fast, so forcefully, that all the gods paused in their places for a moment. From Gohan's entire body, a terrible, blinding energy was erupting, and his eyes were burning with anger, with grief. Belmode looked at him and gave a slight, cold smile. "He's grieving," he said to the other gods, with a careless indifference, "over the passing of his beloved brother. Just look how he rides, how he breaks from within. This is exactly what we wanted to see." But before Belmode could finish his words, Gohan was right in front of him. With all his anger, with all his pain, Gohan threw a terrible blow at Belmode. The blow was so powerful that Belmode's body flew back into the air, very far, and fell to the ground with full force. All the gods were stunned. Again, a human had sent one of them flying into the air. And this time his strength was far, far greater than before. He was no longer that child. Gohan did not stop. He lunged from one god to another with the speed of lightning, landing a terrible blow on each. The gods now could not steady themselves. Gohan's anger was beating them one after another, sending them flying far into the air. He was spinning among them like a storm. A punch to one god, a kick to another blow to a third. For a moment, it seemed as though perhaps Gohan might really be able to do something. As though perhaps, in this last anger of his, there was enough strength that he could avenge his family. But this did not last long. Suddenly, a power came forward that until now had stood silent, calm, to one side, just watching Jiren, so fast that Gohan, despite all his new strength, couldn't even see him coming. Jiren advanced and caught Gohan in midair with one hand. And then, in a single stroke, with all his strength, he slammed Gohan to the ground. With a terrible thud, Gohan sank into the ground. Dust, stones, and dirt flew far in every direction. A large crater formed where Gohan had fallen. Jiren slowly came to stand over Gohan, looking down at him. "Inside you," he said in his low, deep voice. "It seems quite a lot of strength has come." He paused for a moment, then turned his gaze toward all the other gods. "All of you, come forward." And saying this, all the gods slowly, one by one, gathered around Gohan. A circle formed, and in the middle, Gohan lay on the ground. And then, one by one, they all drew their swords. The light of the cold, long blades began to fall on Gohan's blood-soaked body. Gohan made one last attempt to get up, planted his trembling hands on the ground, tried to lift his body up, but he had nothing left now. His strength was finished. He just lay there, panting, looking at those gleaming swords around him. And then, all together, they lowered their swords onto Gohan. Gohan's scream echoed across the entire field, from pain, from agony, a scream that slowly grew quiet. And after that, all the gods together finished him. Gohan's scream slowly became completely silent. He, right there, on that ground, beside his brother, beside his mother, beside his companions, became silent forever. A deep, heavy silence fell over the field. All the warriors, Piccolo, Tien, Chiaozu, Krillin, Chi-Chi, Goten, and now Gohan, all were gone. No protector of Earth remained now. The people who were running, they too now understood that there was no one left to save them. Belmode put his sword back and cast one last gaze over that ruined, silent field. On his face was that same cold calm, as though just one task had been completed. "Enough," he said softly. "Now the time has come to erase all of these. this entire planet, forever, the one for which we came. And in a single stroke, all the gods rose from that ground and went out beyond Earth, above it, into the dark sky. There, floating above that blue planet, they all turned their palms toward Earth. And then, on each palm, a sharp, bright ball of energy began to form. One by one, each ball grew bigger and more powerful. A sharp light began to erupt from each, until the entire sky filled with the blinding light of those orbs of energy. Below, Earth floated calmly, unaware of its final hours. And then, all at once, they all released those orbs of energy toward that blue planet. All those orbs advanced toward Earth with a sharp light, fast, one behind another. And when they struck the surface of that planet, a light erupted that enveloped everything within it. The entire sky turned white for a moment, filled with a blinding light. And then, slowly, as that light began to subside, as the darkness returned, there was nothing left. That same blue-green planet, which just a short while ago was shining like a precious pearl in this vast dark cosmos, had now completely vanished. In its place, there was now only empty dark space, as though that planet had never been there. Belmode looked at that empty space, where Earth had been a short while ago, where there had been billions of people, where there were green trees, the blue sky, life. Now there was only silence there. On his face was that same cold calm, no remorse, no expression. "Now it's completely over," he said softly. And all the gods, in that empty, dark cosmos, turned back as though they had just completed some very ordinary task, and now they had to move on. I truly hope you enjoyed this original story. Every moment of this video was created with passion to bring you an unforgettable experience. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next adventure. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, take care.